Leah's footsteps echoed on the cobblestone path as she strolled toward the village square of Montverre. Soft morning light filtered through pine and olive trees, warming the centuries-old stone buildings around her. She took a deep breath, savoring air scented with lavender and thyme. In the distance, the bell of the village church tolled, announcing the hour. It was as if the whole village had paused to welcome her, and for the first time in months, Leah felt a spark of peace. Ever since arriving from the bustle of the city, Leah had felt herself begin to unwind. In Montverre, she no longer hurried from one anxiety to the next, but walked slowly, enjoying simple joys. Earlier that week, she had met Jean, a gentle elderly man sitting in the square with a cup of herbal tea. He had spoken quietly about hope and belief, and handed her a small leather-bound book, the one he kept close, The Power of Positive Thinking. Leah sat on a weathered bench in front of the fountain and opened the book. Jean had encouraged her to read with an open mind. She had spent days reading passages about faith, affirmations, and the idea that thoughts could shape reality. One line made her heart beat faster. Change your thoughts, and you change your world. Slowly, she realized the book was teaching her to believe in herself again. Her life in the city had felt stagnant, as if she'd been waiting in the dark. But here in Montverre, each lesson of faith and optimism glowed like dawn, breaking on a mountain horizon. A tiny flame of hope began kindling in her chest, slowly pushing back the darkness of her old doubts. Nearby, a group of children chased a bright red balloon, laughing in the warm sunlight. One boy chased it as it drifted high, then sadly turned away when the wind carried it further. Leah gently approached and offered, "Keep it, little one." His eyes widened and he took it gratefully. She had whispered earlier, as Jean had taught, that prayers and positive thoughts could bring unexpected kindness into the world. Together they watched as a breeze nudged the balloon back toward them. The boy's face lit up, and Leah felt her heart warm with happiness. In that moment, she realized even a small act of kindness could carry more power than she had ever imagined. Each day, Leah practiced a small ritual. At sunrise, she stood by her window, gazing out at Montverre's hills, and softly spoke affirmations. "I am strong, I am capable," she would say. Jean had taught her to hold a clear picture of success in her mind. So when she set out one morning to hike the winding path to the chapel on the hill, she remembered to apply it. The path twisted through olive groves and vineyards, each step growing steeper. Halfway up, fatigue and doubt tried to overwhelm her. Memories of past failures whispered in her mind, and her chest tightened. Leah paused beneath an ancient olive tree, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. She recalled Jean's words from Peel's book. Formulate and stamp indelibly on your mind a mental picture of yourself as succeeding. She pictured herself standing tall at the chapel door, her heart full of joy. Opening her eyes, calm resolve had replaced panic. She climbed the rest of the hill. When the small chapel bells tolled, Leah felt tears of gratitude fall quietly. She whispered a prayer of thanks, and the valley spread golden before her. Inside the tiny stone chapel, sunbeams fell through stained glass onto the flagstone floor. Leah knelt and prayed softly. "Let faith guide me, not fear. I am not alone." She remembered Jean's explanation that prayer was a conversation with the deepest part of ourselves. As a gentle breeze stirred through the pews, Leah felt a serene peace settle in her chest. For the first time in weeks, her own heartbeat felt calm. It was as though she had laid down a burden she had carried for too long. Worry had felt like carrying a heavy stone. With each prayer and affirmation, the weight seemed to lift. Back in the village, Montverre was abuzz, preparing for its midsummer festival. Strings of lanterns were being hung in the courtyard of the old inn. Lanterns glowed, and the scent of roasting chestnuts filled the warm evening air. Leah found herself invited to share a few words that evening by the bonfire. Her stomach fluttered at the thought. Speaking in front of the whole village stirred the old fear deep in her chest. She remembered Peel's advice about seeing difficulties as chances to grow. That evening, as twilight painted the sky pink and purple, Leah stepped up on a small wooden platform by the fire. She took a deep breath and looked into the friendly faces before her. Jean smiling gently, children with painted cheeks, the baker, the mayor, all nodding encouragingly. Leah closed her eyes for a moment and silently repeated to herself, "I can do this. I have something to give." Then she opened her eyes and began. "When I arrived here, I was looking for peace, but I found something even more precious. Belief. Belief in myself, guided by all of you." She spoke about lessons she had learned, how a single thought could change an entire day, how a quiet prayer could steady a trembling heart. In the hush of the warm summer night, her words floated across the crowd like gentle music. By the time she finished, there were tears in more than just her own eyes. After a moment of silent awe, the crowd gently exploded into warm applause. Several villagers approached afterward, patting Leia on the shoulder or offering her flowers, showing how deeply her words had touched them. In the weeks after the festival, Leia watched a small spark inside her kindle into changes all around Montverre. Each morning, a handful of neighbors gathered in Jean's garden beneath the old oak tree. They shared prayers and affirmations softly at dawn. "We cast our worry aside like last night's shadows," Jean would say, smiling. He taught them, as Peel had taught him, that no matter what the odds, we are overcoming people. Leah wrote affirmations on scraps of paper and handed them out. One to the baker, "I am confident and calm." One to the stable hand, "My best days are coming." To her delight, the baker taped her note by the oven, and the stable hand pinned his note in the stall. Even the mayor, once a skeptic, was heard murmuring a phrase of hope at his mirror before leaving for the day. One rainy afternoon, Leah found a young boy named Olivier sitting by the fountain with tears on his cheeks. "I lost my voice, and I have to sing in the church choir tomorrow," he sniffled. Recalling her own stage fright, Leah sat beside him. "Imagine yourself singing clearly," she urged gently. She had the boy close his eyes and picture his confident voice filling the church. When he opened them, Leah laid a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You've practiced every day. Trust yourself and imagine singing just to someone you love. That will carry your voice with confidence," she whispered. Olivier nodded slowly, a determined smile replacing tears. The next day, sure enough, his voice rang clear and strong during the service. He raced to find Leah afterward, eyes shining as if he had captured a star in his hand. Slowly, Montverre itself seemed lighter. Gardeners hummed hopeful phrases as they tended their roses, and even Jean admitted with a chuckle that he had adopted an affirmation of his own. "Every day I am stronger and more peaceful." Each person who picked up an affirmation or offered a prayer seemed to help spread the warmth that had first flickered in Leah's heart. Even the village pub took on a friendlier air, with jokes and hopeful blessings passing around the tables like old stories. The little village felt as though it, too, was being gradually lifted into the light. One evening, Leah stood outside her cottage watching Montverre's windows glow softly against the dusk. Jean approached quietly and stood beside her on the path. "Look at our village," he said. "The lanterns in the windows. Do you see what they remind me of?" Leah squinted at the pattern of lights. "They look like stars scattered on a hillside," she replied. "Exactly," said Jean. "Each one started as a small lamp, a single belief. Now they fill every house with warmth. You have become the light of Montverre, Leah." Leah felt a radiant joy fill her heart. "I came seeking a miracle," she said softly, "and I found the truth instead, that God's light, and a little courage, lived all along inside me." Jean nodded with a gentle smile. Leah felt deeply thankful for how far she had come. By the end of her time in Montverre, Leah knew her transformation was complete. She felt rooted like the ancient olive tree in the valley, her belief and faith having grown deep roots. The timid, anxious woman who had arrived was now someone who not only believed in herself, but inspired others to believe in themselves too. The courtyards of Montverre echoed with optimism and gratitude. She had spent months nurturing a spark in her own heart, and now she could see it shining brightly in the eyes of her neighbors. The villagers of Montverre carried that light within them,